And welcome back, everybody, to the Old Gap Box podcast and radio show, brought to you by Casa de Campo in the Dominican Republic. It's the best golf in the Caribbean. Check it out, casadecampo.com. And I'll be back down in December when they cut the ribbon on Teeth of the Dog. Jerry Pate has been involved with a redo of the Pete Dye Gym, and Jerry's been, he says it's one of his best jobs that he's been doing here in the last few years. So I'm excited. Go to casadecampo.com. Our next guest, I need to get Herb Winches down to Casa de Campo to play a little golf. Herbie's always busy. Broadcasting legend, by the way, in the state of Alabama, has been on the show many times. Great friend. Herbie, first off, man, it's good to see you. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Doug. We've had a great summer at both of our locations on beautiful Lake Martin. And, of course, you and Brandy and her daughter came down and spent a weekend with us. And I hope you enjoyed it. And I thank you so much. I love the gift that you left for me, and that is I'll be wearing it starting this weekend, my Beth Page black beautiful golf shirt.
We're going to talk about that. The landing at Parker Creek is where I always hang out with you, and you roll out the red carpet for everybody, but especially us, and I appreciate that. And the landing at Harbor Point is the one on the east side of Lake Martin, closer to Auburn. One more weekend, and then they're off for the season, right? Because they lower the water, and not as many people go up at that time of year.
They don't. Once school starts, it drops off, I don't want to say dramatically, but quite a bit. So we closed the OG, I call it. We just celebrated our 10th anniversary this past June there.
Good for you.
And we closed it on Labor Day, and now we've left the other one open, Harbor Point, because of a lot of density over on the other side of the lake near Auburn. We might talk about Auburn a little bit too.
Yes.
And I know we will with Bruce Pearl, I'm sure. But anyway, it's I've been blessed beyond belief at my age to be able to still be involved and be active, and it's been great.
It has been great. And again, for those who have been there, Herb is involved, and Herb is there, and he greets everybody. And your recall, Herbie, knowing people is amazing. Of course, that's one of the special qualities you have. But man, when you walk in and you see Herb, he treats you like you've been friends for 100 years, and it's a special quality.
Thank you.
Speaking of that, Herbie, last time I was down, Bruce Pearl, the great Auburn coach, now retired, was there with his son Steven, and they were holding court. You were there. I have a great picture of you, me, and Coach Pearl. Tell me now, were you surprised, or did you have an inkling that Coach Pearl was going to announce his resignation?
That's a great question and a great way to start it off, Doug. I had an inkling because it was so unusual this summer. You know, they have these events where Auburn's involved. They call it Alt Live. And Coach Pearl always speaks at Willow Point Country Club because he lives also on the lake. And this year he skipped it and he had Steve speak in his place. And then the following week, that same event took place in Atlanta. And again, Coach Pearl didn't show up. Now, the big hullabaloo conversation, and I will tell you that I sat down with Coach Pearl the last time he was there this past Sunday, but I wasn't there. But he had his whole family with him, and he told them then exactly what he was about to do. But I got to tell you, the thing is, when I chatted with him, I said, Bruce, I know enough about politics to tell you, man, we listen, I'll support you, whatever you decide to do. You're a dear friend. We've had a great 10-year relationship. And I said, but think about that. I said, the problem you got in Washington, D.C., it's all mucked up. And I said, what you got to do is remember this. You're used to being in control. You're the boss. You make the decisions at Auburn when it comes to your basketball program. When you go to Washington, you get one lousy vote. And you can't get anything accomplished because somebody's going to vote against you. They're going to cancel out your vote. I said, it's just, they call it the swamp for a reason. I said, Coach, but if you do it, I will support you. I'll do a fundraiser for you like I did for Tommy Tuberville a few years back. And he told me then, he said, Herb, I've made one decision. I'm not going to run for Senate. And I said, good. I left it at that. And so the rest took care of itself. And he's been really politicking, if you will, to use that term, for his son Stephen to take over. And he said he was about ready to go. He's only 65. Now, My problem there, Doug, is that I'm 76 and I'm still working. So he's got the best deal going. His wife, Brandy, is the sweetest person you'd ever want to meet. And she was wanting more personal time, and they had talked about that. Now, this is going to do it. And I'll be dang, when the announcement came out on Monday, I said to myself, well, he's doing this because Steven's gotten the job. First, somebody reported interim, and then they said, no, it's not interim. He's got a 5-year contract. But with Coach Pearl being there, I said, if they're smart, and I think the world of John Cohen, the athletic director, I said he and, of course, Dr. Chris Roberts, I'm sure Jimmy Rain, who is Yellowhammer, right, and Yellowwood, the richest man in the state, who's on the board of trustees at Auburn, they're all going to get together. Somebody has got to create some kind of position to keep him involved at Auburn. And by golly, they did it. He is now, and I want you to know this, I'm going to take credit for this because in the many times over the summer that I've introduced him at different events, I've always said, folks, he is the great ambassador. That's why I call him the ambassador. And guess what? He is now going to be the ambassador for athletics at Auburn University and under the guise of course, John Cohen. So Auburn is smart. They hung on to him. You know, Stephen can walk right next door. He'll have an office. Hey, Dad, I need a little help here. I think it's a great move, and I'm proud of it.
Tell me this now, Herbie. You've been around a long time, and Stephen Pearl is an impressive guy. He's about 6'5". If you stand next to him, you're like, wow, he's bigger than I thought. And he's been right there with his dad for 10 years.
Right.
And when I was down at your place, he played with my old dog, which I thought was really a poignant moment. But listen, he's been given the keys to a Cadillac, and he's never been a head coach. Will there be growing pains, Herbie? I mean, listen, he's taken over great players, a lot of success. The arena is unbelievable, the atmosphere there. But will he have some growing pains just because he's the new kid on the block?
Sure he will. And the fact that they've had to retool the portal, they wore it out. And that's one of the great things that's really helped. Bruce knows what he needs. Look, this was already put into place, but now, you know, of course, when a coach does be fired, like Mike Gundy, or Bruce Pearl retiring, it opens up the portal for 30 days. Now, that means the players can leave. I understand they've had a phenomenal several players they've gotten that they've wanted that fits what Bruce likes to run. Well, the guy that's behind that all that does a lot of the game planning is who else? It's Stephen Pearl. Stephen's very involved with that, and he knows what to do. He's a smart young man, very mature for his age, 35, and he's going to be there a long time, I predict. But again, let's see what happens now. I don't know when that goes into effect. The players can transfer out. I hope he'll be able to hang on to this recruiting class because it was truly phenomenal.
Yeah, and practice has started. That's the thing. I mean, he's heavily involved. Immediately, these guys are doing their workouts. So the timing, I think, was good when it all kind of segues together. Tell me this, and I wanted to get your take because I appreciate your perspective on so many things. Tony Kornheiser and Michael Wilbon on Pardon the Interruption the other day. This was the day that Coach Pearl resigned. And Tony Kornheiser was very complimentary, et cetera, talking about all the things that he'd accomplished. And then Michael Wilbon in the political slant, which you see on ESPN, he said, I'm glad he's gone because he was a divisive figure. He insinuated maybe the school wanted to get rid of him because of his political take. I found that out of bounds, Herbie.
No.
With Michael Wilbon.
That was totally out of bounds. And again, in this country we live in, Doug Bell, you know it as well as I do. 50% are conservatives, 50% are liberals.
Right.
I know Wilbon. I've watched him many times, he and Kornheiser. They've been there a long time. But you're right. He was totally off the mark, totally out of bounds to call him divisive. He's like a guy that he unites people.
Yes.
Bruce Pearl, you've seen him in action. When he's out in public, I'm telling you, Doug, now, does he have strong beliefs because he's Jewish and he supports Israel and he doesn't want to support Hamas and all that? That's his personal opinion.
Yes.
That does not make him divisive. We all, including you, Doug, I'm sure. I have my preferences of people that I've dealt with, and whether it be at the state level legislator, or legislature, I should say, or in Washington. It doesn't make any difference. Everybody is entitled to their opinion. And I thought it was totally out of bounds, and it really shocked me that Michael Wilborn would have done that.
Yeah, I just, and I will say this about Coach Pearl, because I've sat down with him at your place, and I've known him for years, even when he was at Tennessee. And listen, we go back when I was a young guy covering the University of Illinois, and he was at Iowa. That's how far back Bruce and I go. But what a knowledgeable guy about not just basketball. You get him going on just world topics, and obviously the situation in Israel is top of his mind. But he's a very intelligent man who is really well versed in a lot of things aside from just basketball.
You got it. Some reason people take offense to that. Oh, you're just a basketball coach. No, right. You're a human being that is a deep thinker. And like I said, his politics should have nothing to do with this decision. He was not divisive. He was inclusive because he is a guy that accepts everybody for who they are. And I'm telling you, you'd have to see him when he comes out in public to believe it. In that hundreds of people, when he walks into the restaurant, people, Bruce, Bruce, everybody in unison. Everybody wants a picture with Bruce. And you know what? I've never seen a person more patient. I've seen him stand outside of the men's restroom wanting to go in and can't because so many people are coming up. Coach, can I get a picture with you? He's very patient. He would stand there and have a picture made. He'd give an autograph. He's great to young people. He cares. He's passionate. He's passionate about life is what he is.
Yeah, he is. And listen, one of my favorite pictures is, again, at your place with you and Coach Pearl, and you were giving the thumbs up.
Right.
And it's just one of my favorite pictures. All right, one more question about Bruce before we talk golf. The Auburn Mount Rushmore. I was on a show the other day, and somebody asked me this, Herb. He said, does Bruce Pearl belong on the Mount Rushmore of Auburn? And I said, well, are we talking about coaches and players? I mean, you can only pick four, right? And I said, well, you got to have Shug Jordan, obviously, and Pat Dye. They belong up there for all that they accomplished at Auburn.
Right.
And I think Bruce Pearl deserves to be up there, Herbie. Listen, when he took over the Auburn program, it was
in
the bottom dweller. It was the doormat of the Southeastern Conference. What he's done in a decade is really remarkable.
It is, and I will tell you, there's no question because he's the all-time winningest coach in Auburn history. Yeah. And, you and I go back with some great ones. I always think about the great Sonny Smith.
Yes.
The fellas, there have been a lot of great coaches there, and there have been some that not so great. But there's one that's been the best, and it is Bruce Pearl. And he should be honored as so, and he will. He's a Hall of Famer. And even Rick Barnes from Tennessee. All these coaches, they're glad he's retiring.
Right.
He's a tough out. So they have all saluted him the way they should and wished him well in retirement, which it's going to be a pseudo-retirement because he's still going to be heavily involved with Auburn athletics, which, as I said, I deemed him the ambassador, and I think it's a great title. And he is. The golf coach could call him and say, hey, Coach, could you show up and talk to our kids? He was there, Johnny on the spot. I don't care if it was equestrian, if somebody wanted him there at Auburn to speak and kind of get people excited, the athletes or whatever. He was the guy that did it. He was just a special man.
Yeah, no question about it. And last thing I'll tell you about that radio show, when you're put on the spot, these questions you don't expect. And so I told him, I said, Shug Jordan, Pat Dye, Bruce Pearl, yes. I said, how about David Marsh? And the radio host was like, David Marsh? I said, the swim coach. We had all the Olympians and they won all the national titles. So that threw him a curveball. Best I could come up with, Hal Baird baseball. I mean, you're going with just coaches, Herbie. Yeah.
I couldn't figure out that fourth one.
That's a hard one.
It's a tough one. But you got look what Pat Dye did. I mean, Pat Dye Field. He is the one that said, we're going to quit playing the Iron Bowl in Birmingham, Alabama. It needs to come campus to campus. He got that done, and that made him a legend immediately. And, of course, I'm dating myself you and I worked as competitors with each other when you were in Birmingham on a TV station. I was too. I was on a bunch of them more than you, but I just moved around a little bit. But the one thing that I always thought, I said, boy, how fortunate I was to be there the final few years when Shug Jordan. And Doug, this was a long time ago, obviously, because I'm 76 now. But the one thing I remember about that, to tell you how far we've come, when Shug Jordan would win a game, that's why they called him the gentleman. the great Southern gentleman. But the one thing he did, now think about this today in today's world. You weren't allowed to go into the locker room. The media had a separate room way down the hall. And it was a little bitty room. You bring your camera in there, bring your microphone and whatever, and Suge would sit down with you. But you weren't allowed to get in the locker room, nor were you allowed to interview any of the players. Things have changed, haven't they?
Yeah, oh my goodness, have they ever changed? And social media has taken it to a whole different level, which, by the way, brings us to the Ryder Cup. And
Yep.
Herbie, we've never had a Ryder Cup quite like this. Now, obviously, the visiting team hasn't won since Medina back in 2012. It's been a long time. It's just hard to do. And I think it's going to be really difficult for the Euros, even though they just need a tie to retain the cup. New York City, man, it's going to be crazy, Herbie. We've never seen a Ryder Cup. I don't think we've ever seen a golf event that is going to be this loud and this raucous and in some ways this out of control, which I think may be a good thing for golf, right?
I think it's a great thing for golf. And, there's a lot of competition in New York. There's other things going on right now, like a lot of football.
Right.
And I think I'm a little worried, Doug, about I respect Keegan Bradley. I think he was a great choice. I just don't, there's one or two players that I'm a little concerned about. And I will tell you, this breaks my heart to say this because, I'm originally a native of Louisville, Kentucky. And I grew up and went to an all-boys Catholic high school. And, parochial schools are very popular there in Louisville. And there were, Justin played at St. Xavier High School in Louisville,
Yes.
Kentucky. And I've always been a fan of his. But I'm a little concerned. I don't know, I love the name. He's a big name. I get that. He's a great guy. But his golf, he had a tough season. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, he finally won, but at the end of the season, he did slump, and he wasn't very good in the playoffs, et cetera, Justin Thomas.
Right. So do you rate them of our 12? Just give me the 4 you think that we can count on. Give me 4.
Well, let me tell you this, too. The Euros return 11 of the 12 that won 2 years ago, and Rasmus Højgaard replaces his twin brother Nikolai. And he was there anyway, riding around in a golf cart. So basically, the entire Euro team returns. I think that's a positive for them. As for the Americans, you have a lot of rookies, and you're talking about J.J. Spawn, great year, never been in the Ryder Cup, never even dreamed of being in the Ryder Cup. Right. Great experience for him, but nerve-wracking, yes. Ben Griffin, career year, won the Charles Schwab, never been in the Ryder Cup before. Cameron Young grew up in that area. This is what he wanted to play in this one worse than anything. Has never been in the Ryder Cup before. So you have Russell Henley, a Georgia guy, has never been in the Ryder Cup before. So, Herb, I think they're going to be fighting nerves early on. But the guys you can count on, again, you have the best player in the world in Scottie Scheffler.
That's it.
And he's going to play all 5 sessions. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Will he go 5-0? Probably not. But can he get 4 points? Can he get 3 points in a tie? I think that's pretty much a given. And I think that gets the Americans off to a great start. So you can count on Scheffler.
I'll tell you who, just to tell you, I made a check mark by the ones I think we can count on. I love Patrick Cantley. He is just a competitor. This guy always seems to be somewhere near the top of a leaderboard somewhere. He's a real crusty veteran. I think he's got and there's a couple of young guys I like too, but I will tell you, Bryson DeChambeau, what can you say?
Wild card guy though.
Wild card. You're exactly, because, his personality, and he's driven, and he gets mad at himself. He can't make a 30-foot putt sometimes, but he is a guy that I think can really help us out. And then the other one that comes to my mind is Xander Schauffele. I think that he's a veteran. He's been around a little bit.
Absolutely.
And then the other guy that I'm puzzled a little bit about is Harris English. Can you tell me more? I like him. He seems to be a solid player, but I like a few others on the European side a little better. But what's your opinion of him?
Well, English is a veteran, a guy who's been around a long time, has played on a previous Ryder Cup. It's been a while. Won early this year on the PGA Tour out at Torrey Pines, and really was just solid in the major championships. I mean, he had a lot of top 10 finishes in the majors, so really a really good year for him. Not flashy though, Herbie, but consistent. And I like guys like that in the Ryder Cup.
I do too.
And he's a low-key guy, right? I mean, as crazy as it's going to be, I think he just kind of absorbs it, right? Not a lot of fist pumps or pointing at the crowd. He's going to take it all in. I kind of like that persona in a match like this.
Well, here's my question for you, because you cover so many of these wonderful events. Are you going to Bethpage?
Yeah, I am. I'm looking forward to it. And my son lives in Manhattan. He works at Fox in Manhattan there. And so I'm going to stay with him. Yeah. And Herbie, where he lives, again now, Bethpage is about 40 miles east of Manhattan out on Long Island.
You'll have to leave the day before.
Yes, yeah. It's about, and he told me, he said, Dad, he goes, if you time it right, it'll take you about an hour and a half via the train to get out there. And I said, what about coming back? And he said, well, let's don't go there. Just be patient when you come back. I said, okay. So it's New York. What can I tell you?
But hey, as expensive as New York is, you got a free place to stay.
Well, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So who do you like, though? Who's going to win this thing, Herbie? Are the Americans going to get it, or the Euros going to do something special and win on home or on USA soil?
Well, you know me, and you brought it up earlier about how successful we've been on our own soil. Now, you know more about Bethpage Black than I do, but I'm told that it's a bomber's course, that it's a beast, and the United States is excited about their opportunity, because not that all these guys can't bomb it, but some bomb it better than others. So that's a tough track. And have you? I know you've been there before. Have you walked it or played it or?
It's ridiculous. It is the most difficult golf course I've ever been around, Herb. Now it's a par 70 and it's about 7,400 yards. But what makes it so difficult? There's these 500-yard par fours all over the place, and they all bend one way, either right, left, or left, right. Nothing straightforward, right? So you're right. You better put it in the fairway. It is going to be. This is the most difficult venue they've ever played in Ryder Cup history. They've never played a course like this, even though they've softened it for the Ryder Cup. They've cut the rough down a little bit. But it's still going to be hard, man. It's going to be really hard.
So the difficulty is going to be on both sides.
Yes.
So knowing that, if you had to pick one over the other, of course, I know we're red-blooded Americans, so we know who we're going to be rooting for. But the truth of the matter is, I see something on the line. I saw the line at the American team is like a minus 140. So that makes us a slight favorite. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I do. Again, listen, you and I go way back, and we know the persona of golfers, right? And there's never going to be a partisan crowd like this that they've ever faced in their lives. Even though it's been loud in other places, I just think that is going to get under the skin of the European team at times. And I think it'll be hard for them to overcome that. Now, Paul Azinger was on my show the other day, Herbie, and he tends to think New York crowds are fickle and could go the other way if things aren't going well for the Americans. I just disagree with that. I think it'll be this raucous football crowd that'll be all over the European team, and I think it'll be difficult for them to win. That's my take.
And I mean, it means a lot. You know, it gets them all excited and motivated to play better. I agree with you. I think it'll be something to behold. I can't wait. You know, I'm trying to make some decisions here. Okay. Do I want to watch college football? Yeah. Do I want to watch? What am I going to do? We got too many choices.
That's the only thing. The slate of college football on Saturday is amazing. The only saving grace is the matches start early. Where you live in Nashville, the first match 10 after 6 a.m. on Saturday morning. So you got time to watch golf before football starts.
Well, that's good because, you know, I'm one of these. I get up about 5 o'clock and I'm ready to go. Let's move. But, you know, Doug, I want to say this about you, how proud I am of the success you've enjoyed in another career, much like I spent 37 years in the broadcast industry, but I finally said, you know, it's time for me to give it up and let somebody younger take over. So we've both been very fortunate.
Yes.
You've continued your success because you're very talented and you've been at it a long time. And then on the other hand, for myself, I loved all 37 years that I was in it. You have to. You got to have a passion. You got to love what you're doing. But I got to tell you, I love my passion now, which is making people happy because I like to feed them well and I like to see them have fun. And I'm very blessed. My wife and I, Betty, we've been together now 52 years, and she is our business manager, and I just could never do anything without giving her credit for what she's done behind the scenes for both of our fine restaurants at Lake Martin.
Yeah, well said, Herbie. Betty's she's a gem. There's no question about it. And you guys are so special. Again, it's just when I don't see you guys that often, but when I do see you, you embrace me like we're the best of friends, and you listen, we are great friends. But you guys have this really redeeming quality that makes everybody feel special. So I appreciate that in you guys very much.
Well, you are special. Give Brandy my best, and look, be safe travels. And remember what I always used to say on Friday night: no matter what you do, hit them straight.
Hit them straight. I've actually stolen that line a few times from you, so I want you to.
I'm going to give it to you. It's yours.
Thanks, Herbie. See you soon.
Love you, Doug.